Hi everybody, I'm Ben Lund. I'm the editor of Dental Town magazine, and with me as always is Dr. Howard Farran. It's good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, bud.
We're going to talk about the September 2011 Howard Speaks, kind of a touchy subject this month, suicide and trust. Why are we talking about suicide today, Howard?
We're talking about suicide today because, number one, every single person in America has heard that dentists have a high suicide rate. There's not a lot of good data on it. There's not a lot of good research. There's no book on Amazon.com on it. The best source you and I could find was actually 20 years old.
Right, and it really wasn't all that credible, but still that myth seems to persist.
Right, and according to that 20-year-old study, we had a 5.45 times greater risk of suicide.
Right.
When I lecture in a seminar, it could be 100 people, 1,000 people, and I'll say, raise your hand if you know a dentist who committed suicide. All the hands go up.
Wow.
I mean, I've done this 100 times. I don't have to serve anymore. Every dentist knows someone. My favorite teacher at UMKC Dental School committed suicide. Been out here in Phoenix for years. I mean, someone does it about every other year.
Yeah.
It's a plague. And I was thinking about that the other day because another one popped up. Suicide rate, first of all, I love this article he did because we have an article from a stud on addiction.
That's right. Dr. Bill Kane put together a nice article for us in the same issue, and I hope you guys got a chance to read it.
Read that article because if you got addicted to that, when you tried it, that was crazy, but when you're addicted, it's no longer crazy. It's a health issue, and you need help, and we obviously know that some people are genetically predisposed to addiction. So besides the addiction element of suicide, I want to talk about the other element, and I think it boils down to one word, and that's trust. If you learn anything today, you got to learn the word trust. You don't trust. You don't trust anyone. You have to do everything yourself. The staff, they all file out of there at 5 o'clock, and the hygienist back there thinking, I wonder if I'll fish or chicken, and the assistant's thinking, I wonder if I'll go straight home or go pick up my dry cleaning, and the dentist is back there and he just looks at this mess and he starts looking at the insurance agent reports, and he starts looking at the marketing, and he starts looking at all stuff, and he just gets depressed. And then his staff, and then it seems like when they're really, really depressed, the staff's all coming in wanting another $1 an hour raise.
Sure.
Because the earth went around the sun. They all want more money. And I tell the dentist, we call it leading from behind here. You hire the best damn people, and then you get out of their way, and
Right.
you just let them do their job. I am the laziest person at Today's Dental, the dental office, and Farran Media. I'm the last to work, first to leave, because I said my life's mantra has been the 5 Ds. Design your plan, and then drop everything that has nothing to do with your plan. Then delay everything that you can't drop. But number 4, delegate, so that number 5 you can do, and you should do the least, and your team should do it all. I go into dental offices, and you can see when the reports were ran. And call the president of Dentrix, call the president of SoftDent, call the president of EagleSoft, call the president of Curve and Open Dental. They all tell you that 85% of the reports are never ran.
Right.
And the dentist just runs out of time. Well, I looked at the reports one time and decided what I wanted run daily, what I wanted run weekly, and what I wanted run monthly.
But you didn't do it yourself.
And then I went up to my front office and my office manager and my assistants, and I called everybody, and I said, you will run these 3 reports, you will run these 2 reports, you will run this report, and it is your job at the end of the month to run them, not mine. It is your job to analyze it and decide what this data means to you. Do we need to do something? Is there an action plan? What is our goal? And then you have 5 days into the next month till you find me. It's your job to find me. If I'm busy and say I got to go, it's your job to sell me on not running out the door and going over with you.
So if you don't trust any of your staff, what should you do?
The average American has their job for 3 years.
Right.
We got 310 million people. There's about 160 million people employed. The United States creates and destroys about 50 million jobs a year. And when they talk about the United States added 90,000 more jobs, that means we created 50 million, 90,000, and destroyed 50 million. When they got out of school, they were making horse and buggies. Then Model T came out, and what we've seen in our lifetime is when I was little, we had these big vinyl records. Then all those guys lost their jobs and all went to make CDs. Now 90% of them have lost their job and they're doing digital files. My 16-year-old has never seen a CD. He only knows that you download it on Apple to his iPod.
Sure.
So this creative destructionism averages the average employee's been there 3 years. When we see the average employee in a dental office in about 3 years, they do the average numbers that the ADA shows, where the average dentist collects $500,000 a year and takes home about $195,000 a year. But when you start seeing dentists where their staff stays there like 6 years, then you start seeing that net income go from $200,000 to $275,000. When the average staff's been there like 12 years, it tops $300,000.
Wow.
So employee turnover is the most correlating thing I can see. And there's a couple of symptoms of that, like say there's one lady who's been there 20 years and no one else has stayed 3. It's that lady. And every single time, that's the dentist's best friend. He loves her, he trusts her. And 50% of the time, that's the one embezzling from him.
Wow. Okay.
Embezzling. I know we did an article on that a while back,
Yeah,
but I just spent 2 days with Sandy Purdue. 50% of the offices that call Sandy Purdue for consulting services, she finds embezzlement in the first 4 hours. You have to trust your employee. You got to get the best team available, and you got to get the best team, and then you got to trust them, and you got to get out of their way. And let's talk about signs of trust. Like signs, I've been in gazillions of dental offices. I've seen a ton of staff meetings. In the very dysfunctional office, a dentist will walk out there and say, I was on Dental Town, and I've been reading a lot about CAD CAM, and I'm looking at this E4D from Henry Schein, or maybe the Cerax Sorona from Patterson, and I think we're going to invest $125,000 into a CAD CAM. And the staff just sounds like, okay, I'll call it, I'll order it, okay, bye, and they leave. Okay?
Yeah, that's not right.
Total dysfunction. You go in a really functional office, like my office. Did I ever tell you, you remember what I had to do to get Cerac in my office?
Yeah, you had to beg.
Well, I had to do a lot of things. They were like, what? Are you kidding me? We're spending $125,000 on a Cerac machine when this place hasn't been remodeled once since 1994 and looks like freaking pigsty.
Right.
And they're telling me, Dr. Farran, my dental assistant friends and receptionist friends, hygiene friends, and some of your friends' practices that are big cosmetic practices, you walk in there and a totally decked out decor. It looks like a law firm. There's art on the wall. This place looks like a hillbilly farm, and you're trailer trash from Kansas, and you would know class and culture if someone put it to you in a glass. And so
now, folks, this is all stuff that they told him too.
Yeah, to my face. And I still have my first assistant, Jan. And I mean, Jan, when she gets mad at me, I'm not Dr. Farran. I'm you idiot. And I had to remodel Today's Dental. Remember, we did all that remodel, everything?
Yeah, we did.
In fact, then when we got this, the CAD CAM, we actually, then they got mad at the noise of the milling machine, and they had to turn the dark room, which was expired and extinct and never used as storage. We had to remodel that
into a milling room.
And we had to make it real pretty because they all like to go and show the patient the milling. And they didn't want to open it up and be some dirty closet with a bunch of storage crap. They wanted this decked out thing where the milling machine looked like a monument to to God or something.
Technology.
Another look at these 2 big trust issues with the assistant hygienist. Every time I've ever lectured, I've lectured 1,000 times in 20 years, assistants will come up to me and say, will you talk about how to take a good impression? Because doctor does a lot of remakes. The lab man says horrible impressions. And will you say something to the doctor? I'll say, well, what does he say when you tell him this? Oh, God.
Can't talk to him.
If I told him that, I'd be fired.
Right.
If the lab man won't talk to him because the lab man says every time they call a dentist and talk about impression techniques, the dentist basically hangs up the phone and never talks to him again. It's like, how dare you insult me? Because remember, the doctor, he's so caught up on the fact that he studied calculus and trig and physics and chemistry and biology that he just thinks he's a master of the whole world. He thinks he's Superman and God of everything for life when basically he's just a highly trained monkey. And most of them are just average, just like most all people are average. I have seen no correlation between dentists, physicians, and lawyers being smarter than the average median person off the street in America. They're just highly trained monkeys, that's all they are. But they don't trust anyone, and that's why they kill themselves. You got to set the doctor straight. You say, look, in Today's Dental, Jan, of 20 years, when we took impressions, I would look at the impression, I'd say it's good, I'd hand it to her. 20 years ago, about 25% of the time, she'd look at it and just throw it in the trash and say, let's reshoot.
Right.
Because I had to deal with her. If I can't sell my own assistant on this impression, how am I going to sell the lab?
Right.
And if I can't sell my number one employee of all time, Jan, the awesome dental assistant, then am I kidding myself?
Well, then it's not good enough.
The hygienist will look at the x-rays, and for 24 years, they'd read them. And if she said it was a distal on 4, and I said it was a watch, well, just because I'm a dentist or a hygienist doesn't matter. We're looking at a black dot on an x-ray.
Right.
We both have a frontal cortex, a cerebrum, a cerebellum, and a medulla oblongata. It's eye thing. We're both highly educated. So what do we do in our office? We had to get a third party.
Sure.
So we had 3 other hygienists. One of them had to come in and vote, or the 2 associates had to come in and vote. It was actually fun because they'd always walk in and say, okay, who voted for what?
Right.
And it was mum's the word. And they'd look at it, I mean, they would look at it like they've looked at no x-ray in their life. And they're totally staring down this bite wing.
Right.
And then they're like, no, it's not. And either me or the hygienist would say, damn,
right.
you know. And the patient loved it.
Right.
The patient loved it because she smelled and sensed the trust.
Right.
She didn't think I'm selling her. Like, it wasn't like, well, he says I have 2 cavities, but I wonder if I really do. And they
Sure.
don't cause any pain or suffering. And I'm not going to schedule that today. And I mean, they know we're a total open book. Our patients sense that. Everybody sense that. When dentists leave the room, why do they turn to the dental assistant and say, do I really need a root canal? Or what did he say?
Right.
Because that's a trust issue. And part of that trust is to the doctors, because you're walking in there with a 3-piece suit and tie, and you tell everybody, I'm doctor, and you're not. You need a root canal and a crown. Then they turn around and bolt. And I see the offices that just sell all day long. They do 2 things. They either get a normal person, like a really motivated, great assistant, personable person to present all the treatment, where it's open and trusting and non-intimidating. Or number 2, it's always a really laid-back, non-offensive dentist. More times than not, they don't even call themselves doctor. Hey, Ben, I'm Howard. How you doing?
Right.
And they sit down. A lot of them use these little subtle techniques, like Paul Homily has taught over the years, like, raise a chair so they're looking down at you. Don't be looking down at them.
Right.
And be unarmed. And go in there. I like scrubs better than a 3-piece suit. A 3-piece suit, every business book in the world calls it a power suit. Mm-hmm. Really, you want a power relationship with your patient? Do you want to overpower your wife and your children? Why are you in a power suit? I don't get that either.
Yeah.
Come in unarmed. Hey, do you have any questions or thoughts, or talk to me? And then when you're done, dentists are so ego deficient. How come they just can't raise their cards? You know what? I really like you, and I love doing dentistry. Here's 5 cards. If you have any friends, family, neighbors,
Sure.
whatever, I'd love to work on your friends. I love dentistry, and I'll treat them as good as you. And also, if anything ever goes wrong in this office, I know we got Jan, the assistant, we got a lot of great people here, but the buck stops here. And here's my card, has my office number, my home phone number, and my personal email address. If you have a problem and it doesn't get solved, I want to be the first to know. See, that's why we called every patient that night. And see how they're doing.
That's right.
To open up trust with us, like, hey, I'm a doctor, and I tell these patients, if every time I do something wrong and nobody tells me, I'll keep doing it wrong to you again, your husband, your children, your neighbors, your friends, your family.
And that builds trust.
It's all trust. In fact, it's just all trust. I'm spoiled because I got the best people, and I let them go, and life is good.
Right on. Right on. Well, hey, thanks for spending some time with me today, Howard. I appreciate it. Guys, we really hope you read this issue. It was really important topic. And we will see you again right here next month.